guys ever had just little random things go missing from your house? It happens a lot and you just don't really think anything of it. But what if those things started to show up at your doorstep? That is exactly what my stalker did to me. So as all scary stories start, I met a guy on Tinder. And for the sake of the story, I feel like his name should be Ted. So Ted and I really hit it off and dated for 3 months, and that's when he asked me to be his girlfriend. I of course said yes, but that's when I saw a switch in his personality. He became this very dark, controlling figure in my life and kept me from seeing any of my friends and family. Once I realized this was emotional abuse, I left. And he was eerily calm about the breakup, which was not consistent with his controlling behavior. And around this time, I started to get anonymous packages delivered to my house. And they contained stuff that had been missing from my home. I tried to brush it off, but couldn't help but think it might be Ted. But that's when I got a text from Ted's best friend saying that Ted had passed away in a car crash. So I ruled him out, but that's when more weird things kept happening. The anonymous packages kept showing up, and then I noticed a car would follow me everywhere I went. Storytime part 2 to my stalker sending me missing items from my house. After I got the text message that my ex had passed away in a car crash, I immediately ruled him out. Like, there's no way you can be dead and sending me packages. And then I started to notice anytime I would leave my house to go run errands, this one car was always there. They would always follow close or park next to me. And sometimes I would even think that I could see Ted, but I thought I was just imagining it because I was dealing with his loss. But then I started to get texts from a random number, giving me information about where I lived, what I was doing. So I obviously blocked it. And then hundreds of new numbers would start to text me, and I couldn't keep blocking them all. So I finally talked to my mom about it, and she made me go to the police. That's when the officers tracked one of the numbers back to Ted's house, which really confused me because I had already grieved his loss. But the officers let me know that he was very much alive, and they went to go arrest him and found him in my neighborhood in the car that I had seen following me, which was stolen and had photos of me all over it. If you guys have a story you want to share, follow me on Insta.
Storytime about how I caught my grandma with my dad. So a little background information, I was 16, and it was the first day of 11th grade. Well, my friend wanted me to come to the mall with her after school that day. She was like, screw your grandma's birthday, just come to the mall with me. So the plan was I would sneak onto my best friend's bus after school and skip my grandma's birthday. By the way, my grandma was low-key a hoe. Like, half of her kids won't even bring their husbands around her, because after she got their numbers, she would end up sending nude pictures to them. Anyway, so the end of the day rolls around and I go to my locker to get my book bag when I'm called down to the office. So I go down to the office and my mom is there to pick me up because she said that we needed to do a few things before our grandma's party. Well, my grandma was at our house getting ready and my mom forgot her wallet at home, so when we went back home, I went to go put my book bag in the house. When I walk in and I see my grandma and dad on the couch, and I'm not even going to say what they were doing, and my mom is walking past them like she didn't see anything. So after that, I called one of my aunts and asked if I could stay with her for a while, and now I don't talk to any of them.
Story time on how I cheated all throughout high school and got valedictorian. Now, this story time is not to encourage others to cheat. I just want to explain how I did it. So, when it came to high school education, I cared less about actually learning the material they taught in school, but more about getting a good grade. So, if you're like me, this video is for you. In school, I created a bunch of friends with all types of people, but not just anyone, but with people that had the same class with me. Even if they weren't in the same class period, if I knew we had the same teacher, guarantee you were on my roster of friends. In the beginning of the year, I sort of created an agreement with each friend when it came to things like homework, classwork, projects, and especially tests. Also, I cheated over 95% of my tests and scored high. I really want to get into details, but I'm running out of time. So, like I said earlier, I created agreement with each friend. Now, we never had a discussion over who was doing what work, but I had specific friends for English homework, math, tests, etc. I was always involved in group chats for each class, and because I was friends with everyone, I was able to trade what I needed with what they needed. I would trade homework that wasn't even a class I was taking and for test answers. So it was like a win-win, and I always had backups just in case someone didn't have them. But those things mainly came in handy for homework, classwork. Now, when it came to things like tests, like I said earlier, I cheated over 95% of my tests, and I always scored high. Also, by the way, I never studied, and let's get into how I did that. When it came to things like tests, I cheated over 95% of them and always scored high. Also, by the way, I never studied and I never got caught. I'm going to expose, so hopefully there's no teachers watching this. I had 3 methods of cheating. Number one was either one of my friends would take a picture of the test or get the picture of the test from someone else and send it to me, and I'd write codes for what answers were. So like if the answer was apple, I'd write AP for short. So even if I did get caught, the teacher wouldn't even know what the little paper meant. All right, number two. I also cheated by sneaking a picture of the test myself, then pretending that I needed to go to the bathroom or the nurse because I felt sick, when in reality, I was in a hallway looking up the answers on my phone. My third cheating method was my ultimate way of cheating, just in case the first two wouldn't work. I'm running.
Story time about how I'm hooking up with my boss's husband. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Let's get this out of the way. Yes, I'm a homewrecker. Am I proud of it? No, but just hear me out. A few years ago, I had moved to a new city and didn't have any friends at all. My goal was to get a job and make some new friends. Luckily, I got a job right away. After working there for a few weeks, I noticed that my boss would get really jealous anytime her husband would come into the store. Here's the reason why. Her husband is super attractive. He's like way more attractive than she is. Anyway, there were a bunch of girls that worked at the store. I wasn't the only one, but it was like some kind of unspoken rule that you never spoke to the boss's husband. After a month of working there, I would avoid him at all cost. But here's the thing, he actually would go out of his way to come say hi to me. At first I thought this was flattering, but then I realized I could be playing with fire. So I decided to be really cold towards him. Well, this didn't work because it actually made him want to talk to me even more. A few days later, I get a text from an unknown number. Can you guess who it is? Yep, it's my boss's husband. In the message, he basically said that if he had done anything wrong to let him know because he didn't want me to feel uncomfortable around him. That's when I told him that none of the girls at the store were allowed to talk to him or even make eye contact with him. And that was the reason why I didn't speak to him. He told me that I must have misunderstood because he's friends with all of the girls who work there, which I knew was not true. The next day I go into work and he actually shows up at lunchtime. I was by myself at the store. It's like he almost knew that I was there by myself, so he decided to come over. And he started flirting. He pretty much complimented everything about me and asked me if I was making friends. Then he asked me for permission to follow me on Instagram. Of course, I was like, yeah, you can follow me. After that, we basically talked on Instagram almost every single day. He would watch and reply to all of my stories. One time I posted a story of me having dinner with some guy, and he replied right away and asked me if I was on a date. I said yes. Then he told me that he was actually jealous. I didn't know how to reply, so I just said LOL. Then he said, what are we gonna do about this? I told him probably nothing because his wife would get upset. Then he said, I've got my ways, don't worry. He asked me to go to the movies and we went, and we basically made out the entire time. After the movie, we sat in his car and he told me that he hated his wife and that he was planning on divorcing her. He was even crying. I mean, I had to believe him. He asked me to keep everything secret, and of course I said yes. I mean, I didn't want to lose my job. This went on for 2 months. One day he calls me and tells me that his wife actually read our messages. Part 2 is my boss's husband, aka the guy I'm having an affair with. He calls me up to tell me that she actually saw the text messages between us. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I repeat, this is not my story time. Luckily, he did not save my number under my name. So basically, she saw messages between him and some other girl.